Hello everyone, I'm Macabeus, the GambiConf organizer, and today we are going to have a talk with Ethan Roseman, who is speaking from Japan, and he's very active in the Decompilation community where he works on tools and decompilation projects for many games such as Paper Mario. He also created decomp.me, a web platform for doing decompilation in a collaborative way. So, Ethan, thanks for sharing your time with us. In the introduction, I said decompilation many times, but probably whoever is listening to us doesn't know what it is. Can you kick us off by presenting yourself and explain in a few words what decompilation is, please?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Ethan Roseman. I'm a software engineer living in Tokyo. And in my free time, I like to do reverse engineering and decompilation related stuff. So, what is decompilation? If you have like an engineering background, you know that when we write code in languages like C and C++ and Rust, it gets compiled into a bytecode that the processor can understand. And the most simple way to think of decompilation is the reverse of that process. Now, practically, there's a lot of tools and processes and things involved in actually getting there. But yeah, it's the essentially decompilation is the opposite of decompilation, of compilation, excuse me.
Yes, yes. So, okay, let's start this podcast in the beginning of your history and how you get started in the decompilation. What's you motivated to start and to work on it?
Sure. So it was around COVID time. I had seen on Reddit some posts in the past about the Mario 64 decomp project.
Mm,
And I thought at the time that I didn't know enough to get started on it. I always thought it was so interesting and cool. And I really wanted to do something like that. But I just didn't think I could do it. And then at some point, I joined a Discord and saw that the Zelda decomp was going to start. And I thought, oh, what a great time for me to learn is like on a brand new project when I can jump in at the beginning. Um, and it was a slow process, but I picked up a bunch of things. A lot of great, helpful community members taught me a lot. And it just kind of started from there. I started working on tools and other projects. And yeah, now it's been five or so years.
yeah, the same time for college.
Yeah,
Yes, so
yeah,
you are graduated in decompilation.
yeah. I have my bachelor's or associate's degree. Not a doctor yet, but yeah,
Yes,
maybe
so
someday.
yes, I also like that you mentioned Super Mario 64 because I also found this thing from Super Mario 64 probably on Twitter when they announcement they decompiled the game and it was so crazy to me. Oh, the Super Mario 64 community is so engaged, is so great, but that's a very as it's a mind blowing stuff to be able to see the C code that's going to generate the same binary from the original game. So
Yeah, and this whole community. I think we'll get into this a bit later, but the decompilation we're doing is not what professors would teach in school, where you have some pseudocode that looks like maybe it could be the original code. What we make is called byte matching. Our requirements are very strict, and it's the kind of thing that people would previously say is not actually possible, and only due to a very dedicated community have we been able to do these projects at all. It's pretty amazing, I think. And we're only at like the very beginning of this matching decompilation field. It kind of just began. So I'm really excited about the future of it.
yes, yes, and the okay, I mentioned that in the beginning that you start to decompile Paper Mario, but why did you decide to work on specifically Paper Mario?
Paper
It was a
Mario,
brand new project that it was easy for you to start with, but
yeah, it was not easy.
okay, it
But
was
it is
easy, not easy.
right. It Paper Mario is one of my favorite games ever. It's kind of the game that taught me like what an RPG can be. It was my first experience playing that kind of game as a kid, so it just left such a huge impact on me. And I always wanted to learn more about it on like a technical level and kind of explore the insides of it. So yeah, it was just the natural choice for me. It's like the game I most wanted to learn about. Now, it was probably the worst choice because it ended up being a very complicated project in pretty much every dimension you can imagine. And although we have like finished some of the versions like US and JP, we're not done by any means with that project. It is a huge ongoing effort, and it's yeah, but it's fun. I love Paper Mario, and the decomp is great.
Yes, yes, that's very important to work in a thing that we will love it because that's a long process. I
Yeah,
was checking the games and it took 2 3 years to fully decompile a version for the game. So
right. Yeah, yeah, and like I've mentioned this before, but a lot of the ability to get it done even that quickly, it feels like a long time, but so much of that was accelerated by tooling that was made within the community. So without those tools, it would be 5 years. It might not ever get to the 100% mark. So
mhm.
yeah, it's
Yes,
amazing.
yeah, that's nice because when you start a new project, you don't need to start from scratch because you need to start with the learnings on and the tools for all the previous projects, so it is
Right.
able to make the community go further, go
Yes.
even longer. Yes.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, and one of the tools that you helped to work was at the comp.me that I really liked it because that's a very beginner friendly. When I was making lives on Twitch and there was the comparison functions, a guy says, "Oh, that's a very nice tool. That's a very beginner friendly because it's harder to find in security or reverse engineering at beginner friendly because normally they are like a lot of crazy interface and the menus and they're harder to start with." So
Yeah.
can you tell us more about the history about the comp.me and how it was useful if someone want to start with?
Sure. Yeah. That's a decomp.me is a huge project that I would say like I kicked off, but I am by no means like responsible for all of its success. Maybe a small portion, but what happened is many years ago, well, a few years ago, people would say sometimes. Let me rewind. Historically, the way that people would ask for help with decomp would be to send screenshots of an assembly diffing program and send a screenshot of your C code or send a snippet of your C code and then post in Discord any ideas, and then someone would say, try inverting the control flow, or some idea. You'd go try it, you'd say, oh, that didn't work. It was very slow and very yeah, just slow, not very efficient way to ask for help. And then there were some people who would suggest, what if we had a website where we could kind of post the code and send a link, and then people could look at the code and experiment. And I was one of the people that said, "Oh, that's not really a realistic project. It's going to take a lot of development. Who's going to make that website? Who's going to maintain the database?" I kind of shot it down, and then I think 2.5 years ago, I at one point just said, you know what, screw it. I want to try making this thing. So I made like a very bare bones version. And then a very talented designer named Alex came and helped and made a amazing front end for it. And then some other folks have jumped on in the community and have added features and platforms. And now it's a really popular, I would say, website for people to collaborate on getting help matching functions. And I appreciate that you say it's makes things more beginner friendly, but I'm not satisfied personally with it in terms of ramping people up. I think the future of the website will involve teaching people how to actually decompile. But these are kind of stretch goals that will take a long time. But yeah, it's been a really fun project to work on.
Yes, yes, I will like it. Sometimes you just need someone to kickstart it to make the first commit because when
Yes.
someone started, the other guys you'll be engaged and make it going forward.
Yes, yes,
That's nice.
exactly. Yeah.
That's nice because on the comp.me we have the purple check mark. I don't know who had this idea, but that's a very active to see the progress bar to going forward and to have the purple
It's
check mark. That is nice. That this joke that I had on the community.
yeah. I don't want to misattribute. So I made the purple progress bar that moves as you work on the code. But that came after. I think Alex added the check mark. I am sorry if I'm crediting the wrong person, but yeah, great idea, and it's really stuck with the community along with the purple frog mascot. Yeah.
Yes, the frog mascot. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, and the okay, when I was talking about the compilation with some friends, there one question that we raised is because okay, when you see the code from the compiled project, we can run it and it can we can compile it, you can see it running, but but how did you start to get the right compiler? Because in C, we have many compilers, we have undefined behavior, so the same C code can generate very different outputs, different behaviors. So have the exactly same compiler and the same version for the compiler is essential. But how did you found it?
That's a great question, and it depends on the platform, but the problem gets simplified a lot because the question isn't what compiler this game used. The question is, does the community have the compiler that this game
Okay,
used?
it's even fun. It's even fun.
And the problem is, the good news is that the subset of compilers the community has is smaller than all compilers, which is good and bad. Obviously, if we don't have the compiler, that means you can't do a matching decompilation of the game, which is sad. But the good news is there's fewer options to try. um, so there's different ways of doing it. For Nintendo 64, there's kind of two main schools of compiler. There's GCC and derivatives of GCC and IDO. And if it's not a known GCC version, it's probably a known IDO version or the other way around. We've pretty much found all of the compilers for Nintendo 64. Some systems like the GameCube, there's so many minor versions, and we might not have every single one. Um, a lot of it is kind of like investigative research. Like, did this studio make other games? Can we look at the other games to see what compilers they made? Did the studio make development tools? What compiler did they use for those development tools? Which is in the case of Paper Mario, we understood the compiler by looking at what development tools Intelligent Systems had made. Um, so yeah, there's many different ways, but it's really at the end of the day, you just have to find a function and try a lot of different compilers and a lot of different settings. If you have no idea, that's the only other way to do it, really. Some binary formats encode, like some compilers will put a identifier into the binary, giving you information like this was compiled with, XYZ version 3. If you have that, that's great. You don't always have that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that worth to mention that is depend on the case. We can just check all the games, all the presets that all the ongoing projects for the decompilation we have. So we can try to start not from scratch, but check. Okay, I have this preset for this other game. You can test the same preset, and it may
Right.
work.
Yes, right, right. So yeah, there's that option. Just look at what other games are doing because games there's there are a lot of different compiler options, but there a lot of games tend to do similar things. So that's a good
Mhm.
point too. You can look at what other people are doing.
Yes, and the okay, we just talk about get the compiler. You paper my work, and if you are going to tell someone that you want to start to decompile a brand new game, and we discussed about find a compiler, but can you give us a overview for that? Because I know that it depends a lot on the platform. Nintendo 64, GameCube has different workflow, but can you explain the easiest path for a beginner can take?
Sure. Well, on a theoretical level, what you need is a tool that breaks the program back into like objects or assembly,
Mhm,
and then you need some way to rebuild those pieces, and also assets, and then you need a way to rebuild those pieces.
mhm,
But more practically, for GameCube and Wii, there's a Encounter is a community member who made a tool called DTK,
mm,
Decomp Toolkit. DTK is a really it's like a streamlined kind of framework for working on a decomp project. So it handles a lot of this stuff for you. Um, for MIPS based platforms, PSP, PS1 and 2, and N64, Splat serves as a both kind of asset or binary splitter, but also a linker script generator. Because to properly rebuild the original binary, you need to tell the linker exactly where all the pieces go and at what address. So for that, we use a linker script, and Splat creates that as well. So yeah, it depends on the platform, but I recommend if you want to get into decomp, picking a platform. Well, really, I recommend starting on a project that already exists. But if you did want to make your own project, pick a platform that has a good tooling ecosystem. GameCube and Wii, I think, is probably the best. And
mm.
embrace those tools and join Discord and ask questions.
Yes, I have one desire, okay, not for now, not for this year, but one thing that I really want to make in the future is try to decompile a game from Wonder Swarm, but the hard thing is
Oh,
because there is no project in this console that not popular console, so it will be very but that's a thing that I want to start the future.
what's the architecture of that?
Uh, to be honest, I have no idea.
Well, that's a fun.
Okay.
That itself is a fun project. It's just like
Yes, so it will
looking
be
at.
not start from a new game, but start from a console that
That's
that's
awesome.
not start yet. So
Yeah, we can
not
add it to
recommend for
decomp me.
beginner friendly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, if you find the tools for it, we can add it to decomp me, and you can ask for help.
Yes,
Yeah,
but that's what you said that first start with a ongoing project with a low hanging fruits to start with.
right.
After that, you can start your brand new game in the and after that maybe add a new platform. So it's like a ladder.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Yes. So, okay, we are going to talk about the beginner, the novice path. So, and I needed to ask you about it because that's a frequent question and the recurring topic on this podcast.
I
And
see.
I know that it's sometimes like a strong opinion of some people, but what do you think about AI for magic decompilation? Because I believe that AI can be useful to lower the bar on the compilation because you can ask AI to get the first idea about how to match a function. It's like M to C, but with more powerful ideas. But what do you think about AI in this scene? Do you think that can be useful or not? Or
I think the answer is yes, but I don't personally think that LLMs are the most effective tool
Mhm,
for AI in terms of looking at machine learning. Um, I'm not like a researcher and I don't follow all of it very closely, but I know that there is a lot of research being done on applying machine learning and like deep neural networks to decompilation. And personally, I think that some smart people who develop a custom model for certain subtasks in the decompilation
mhm,
space, uh, that I think is going to end up being the most effective way
mhm,
to use AI with decomp. But if you're asking me about LLMs, it sounds like, I mean, I've heard from you and I've heard from others in the community that they can be really helpful. So I would be silly to say no, they're not they're not useful. But the fuzzy nature of them and the slowness make them, I mean, not that they're super slow, but just they're not for example, our current decompiler M2C runs in less than a second,
Hmm.
and it's algorithmic, so we know what it's going to produce, which is good and bad. The fuzzy aspect of AI actually makes it good in some ways for decomp, because we often need to ask the tools to give us, or we wish we could ask the tools to give us a different output. Hey, like, it doesn't work here, could you try something else? And that's where I think LLMs and AI are extremely have a big advantage. um,
Hmm. What
Sorry, I
about
know this is
the
kind of a run-on sentence, but yeah, essentially, yes, I think they are useful. But I wish we saw more custom tailored research uh, to special models. I think would be really cool.
Yes, as one time ago, I was read the proof of concept about use reinforcement learning to make a custom model for matching decompilation. So it may be useful. We have the fuzzy idea from LM that can be, let's say, less recurse. If we aim to see failed, you can have all the more powerful ideas that are slower but can produce more, let's say, creativity results.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, the creativity aspect is really important, and we might get into it later, but I'll just mention there's another tool the community uses called the permuter, which tries other
Mm.
things as well. So, like, any tool that can try other things is inherently a useful tool, because we are doing that as humans, but we're not as fast as the permuter, and we're certainly not as fast as AI. So yeah, those are useful tools. And I will say also, a couple of years ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, I did try to fine tune a the Code T5 model on my personal desktop to work on the Paper Mario decomp. I used Paper Mario as like a training set of data, and that project of me trying to do that kind of left me feeling a little disillusioned because it didn't go very well. But that doesn't mean that LLMs can't do decomp. It just means my experiment didn't go well. And I'm seeing that as LLMs get better, it seems like they are quite good at it. So I'm really excited to see where things go. Um, yeah, but I love working on tools. So if AI completely removes the human element from this, that would make me a little sad, I guess. But that's okay. Like, if that happens, that's gonna happen. So yeah.
Yes, I get it. Sometimes when I work on some code base and I see a AI generated code, it's just like a soulless. I don't know
Yeah.
other term besides soulless because that's a different piece of content. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
we are talking about the toolings, about find the compiler. What else do you think could be useful for a newcomer that need to pay attention?
That's a good question. I think just getting involved with the community is probably the most useful tool. There are some people who work on projects by themselves, but I really think that most projects succeed due to a huge group effort and due to people kind of making friends and cheering each other on as they work on a project together. So joining the various decomp related discords, even if English isn't your first language, that's fine. Most people in the Discord community are like from everywhere, and there's a lot of people who speak all kinds of languages. So yeah, you'll likely find someone who speaks your language there.
I still need to find someone to speak Portuguese. I found one guy besides
there,
me.
there's a maybe a handful at least, but I don't know.
Okay. Okay. And okay, going forward, tell me other topics and besides work on uh, Paper Mario, we are also working in another Nintendo 64 game. I work on Pokemon Snap. And
Mm.
can you tell the difference between Pokemon Snap and the Paper Mario in the perspective for the compilation?
Sure. So Paper Mario is was a I don't actually remember when Pokemon Snap came out into the life cycle of the console, but Paper Mario came out right at the towards the end of the N64
Mm.
life cycle, I believe, or at least several years after it was released, and is a technical masterpiece. It does a lot of crazy things. It uses all kinds of uh, like very complicated graphical tricks, and yeah, it's just using all sorts of interesting things under the hood, and is a huge game. Pokemon Snap has like a very different development story. It's kind of at its core a very simple rail shooter. Originally, I think it was going to be a safari, just like a generic zoo. You go around in a zoo and take photos of animals or shoot animals or something. But it changed into Pokemon, and yeah, it's also so on a more technical level. Paper Mario is GCC and Pokemon Snap is IDO, and the code generation for both of those varies wildly. So you can kind of get used to doing decomp for an IDO game, and then once you look at a GCC game, you suddenly feel like, oh my god, I can't do anything. Like you feel kind of stupid because the output between the compilers is so different. But yeah, Pokemon Snap. I would say that it's been much simpler to work on also just due to starting it after Paper Mario and after tools have gotten so much better. So the project has just gone a lot more smoothly. But both games have their own, custom asset formats, and both games involve, reverse engineering those formats and reverse engineering other things. So yeah, I don't know. They're different, and part of that is due to the game, but part of that is due to time, I guess.
Mhm. Yes, I like the beginning of your answer that you mentioned the history of the game because when you are decompile a game or reverse engineer a game, you can discover more about the history. Like you
Yeah,
mentioned that it moved to be Pokemon, so you can and it was the end of the console age generation. So
yeah.
that's nice to see that how the history maps in the code.
So, fun fact about Pokemon and a lot of games on the N64 we decompile is that there's kind of like debug strings often left in the code that you
Mm.
would never see as a player, but they're still there. And in Pokemon Snap, through these strings, we know that the struct name for the Pokemon is actually animal, because the game used to be about animals. So all the Pokemon are
Ah.
just called animal in the game code, which I think is great. I just like thinking of Pokemon as animals now. They basically are, but yeah.
Yes, yes, and that's very fun when you reverse engineer a game and you can find the secrets, like I mentioned at the bug strings or levels that was work in progress and did not finish at the end of the game. Your
Right.
music that are never played it,
Yeah.
and can you share more about the other fun thing, not about Pokemon Snap, but about Paper Mario that you found, just for curiosity?
Yeah. I don't know if it's that fun, but it's the most interesting thing for me is there's several, like four places in the code that do a check for I think like at the time the game was released there was like one emulator, and the game has these very kind of low level checks to make sure that the game is loaded correctly, and if it isn't, it'll like do some crazy, I think it'll hang or like boot you back to a different screen or something like that. But it's been a while since I've looked at the code, but it it actually like reads the ROM in memory and then makes sure that there's like a hash check, and if the hash check fails, it thinks you're running the game in an emulator. So yeah, finding anti-emulator code in a 64 game like that was pretty cool. And we were able to do a matching decompilation of that code as well, which I think is neat. Yeah.
Okay, so you match the code that avoid people making mess in the project.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so yeah, that's fun. I also I want to mention out at the wiki the cut room floor because
uh,
that's a very nice wiki that you can if you that is listening this podcast and you want to check a random page from this week, that's nice because it tells a lot of things that I'm missing and they forgot inside of the game. So that's nice
yeah.
to see. I was working on Clonoa and part of Dreams, and the community found a like a level that was going to enter the next levels. It's like
Uh,
a second world map, but for the extra levels after finish the game,
oh,
and
cool.
that's nice because that's sad because it was a nice map, but they never finished it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but it was nice. Oh, the game could be like that.
yeah. Actually, another fun thing. Now that you say that, it reminded me. At the end of the Paper Mario ROM, due to some technical reason that I can't quite recall, are some leftover map. So all of the like the screens in Paper Mario are loaded in at runtime. So every time you move to a new area, it loads in like a we call them overlays, but it's like there's an overlay for that screen. And at the end of the ROM are what we thought were duplicate overlay code for all of the maps, for a bunch of the maps. And what we learned is that it's not duplicate code, it's old versions of the map code because all these versions had like debug strings still left in. And it's all dead code that the game never jumps to because it's like just duplicate chunk data. But all this data gives us insight into the development process because there's like a string, for example, that says dokon pose, like dokon is pipe, and it's like logging. It's a log statement for where the pipe position, and stuff like that. It's just so fascinating to see just left at the end of the ROM for us to uncover and learn about. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we are talking about secrets inside of the game. You can make a podcast one about that. Maybe in the
Yes.
future I can invite someone to talk about find the secrets inside of the game. There is one guy
Absolutely.
that I really like to follow on social media. That's Ray Karate. That he found a lot of secrets on Rayman games. I put
Uh,
the link in the description. But going forward and the how do you view the landscape of the decompilation community? Is there something that you are excited about in the scene?
there's a lot I'm excited about. We have new people joining all the time, a lot of like incredibly smart, talented people helping out with projects and working on tools. Um, there's like new tools being developed that kind of will, I think, continue to accelerate the people's ability to work on these projects. Um, Several people, including me, at the same time are working on tools to find matches of code between functions, even between different games. And
Mhm,
that's going to really, I mean, it already has helped, but I think it will continue to help
mhm,
organize these projects and accelerate them. So yeah, mostly like I'm excited about tool progress, and tools are what I like working on the most now. Kind of a sad fact is, earlier you mentioned that Paper Mario took 2 to 3 years. Pokemon Snap has taken considerable time as well. I love many games. There is no way I can decompile all the games I love. So I have to pick the ones that I'm most excited about. And then in the rest of my time on these reverse engineering space, I will spend it working on tools that will help other people decompile games that hopefully some of the ones I like. So yeah.
Yeah, there are too many things that you want to do, but don't have enough time. So,
Oh, bless you.
sorry, need to
No, no
focus
worries.
in just a single piece to finish the single piece well. Yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, I get it. That's
Mhm.
sad, but that's the life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And besides the match in the compilation community itself, we mentioned earlier that we have research that make research papers about the compilation, not like we do in the match the compilation community, but uh, do you think that you have a potential collaboration between the academics, teachers, and the broader community that you have?
I would love that, and I really hope so. I think it's actually one of the weakest points of our community is the fact that we exist in this kind of subspace working on these very strict requirements. But I do think that we potentially have a lot of overlap with the academic community that researches decompilation and reverse engineering. I'm in contact with a few academics, but and some people have like reached out wanting to use decomp me data for research purposes, which we provide um, because we want decomp me to be useful for tool development and research, not just actually doing decomp, like straight up decomp. That is. Yeah, I think that there is potential room for collaboration, but the problem is that matching decomp is not probably not a thing that the research community needs. They usually like decompilation is used to understand binaries, but getting it byte matching isn't a requirement that really helps. So I think that's why the researchers aren't spending time in that area. There might be, I hope in the future it becomes like more of a thing, because if we could work together, I think we could learn a lot from them, and maybe they could learn from us as well. And that would just be really cool.
Yes, that would be very nice to have this broader collaboration.
Yeah.
Yes, and talking about other communities, besides the compilation, we also have recompilation. That's this approach. For me, that I am not an expert in this area. I just read the overview, but this approach seems to allow to port a game faster than decompile its whole source code, and as well doing a match decompilation efforts. This idea is older, but has become more popular recently because of N64 Recomp project that I will link below in the description, which paved the way to port other games quickly. Can you explain in a few words how recompilation works and if there is a synergy between recompilation and decompilation?
Yeah, I can try, but I want to start by saying I'm not an expert in recompilation at all. But what I know, so uh, there's like two types that I am aware of, at least, that two schools that it gets used in. There's static recompilation and dynamic recompilation. And
Mhm.
you might have heard the term dynamic recompilation because it's what emulators often use to when you're running a game. Is it'll take the code, the MIPS N64 code, and it will on the fly convert it into code that your processor can understand, because your processor is not a MIPS processor probably on a modern PC. So you
Yes,
need to you need to your processor needs to understand the code. So the rather than take the binary and then transform it all, it kind of it does that process as you're playing, as you're running the binary. That's
it's like a
dynamic.
just-in-time compiler. Is
Yeah, and I this is where I don't actually know the difference between like JIT compilers and like ahead of time and all that stuff, but it's like it's a real time you know tr- conversion between the
okay.
original code and your processor. Now, static recompilation, which is what the N64 Recomp project is doing, um, and some other things are doing that I'll mention after, is when you take an input binary and then you literally interpret the instructions, and then you kind of generate. So, okay, I'll explain it kind of in steps. You read all the instructions, but those instructions aren't understood by your processor. So what you do is you convert those into source code, that you then recompile, and then when you recompile it, you choose the target of your processor. So this intermediate source code ends up looking like a crazy mess, because it's a bunch of actual assembly instructions, but literally interpreted and then converted to code and then
Mhm.
recompiled. Um, and it's how the N64 Recomp project, to my understanding, is able to take the N64 code and then generate like x86 code from that. Now, there's a lot of stuff I'm skipping over, like system dependent stuff kind of where all the magic lies and why this project is so cool. And I'm not the right person to explain that. So I think it would be cool if you got Wise Guy on or someone who was more
Okay. No,
familiar.
no, 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 no. That's just a spoiler for upcoming podcast that I
Sure.
might have in the future. But
Yeah, yeah. Um, Now, I will say, I think either the idea or at least some inspiration came from regarding N64 Recomp. Some inspiration came from earlier. So for N64 decomp projects, N64 games were often compiled with IDO, as I've mentioned
Mm,
before, which is an Erix compiler, which doesn't run on our modern PCs. So the way we used to run IDO was we used QEMU, an
mm,
Erix flavor of that, and it worked okay, but it wasn't super. It was like had some issues and was kind of slow. And what someone did is they took the IDO binary and they tried to statically recompile it. And what they were able to do is generate a Windows binary, or a Linux. Well, actually, all three platforms: Mac, Windows, Linux binary that is just a recompiled compiler, IDO compiler. And that project kind of got more sophisticated, and now everyone runs IDO through the recompiled binary. That's like the main way to run IDO now. So yeah, similar process, and static recompilation is a uh, really cool technique, and I think it's really cool that it was applied to N64 games as well. So yeah.
so you are going to the end of the program, and just a personal stuff. We talked a lot during this program that you worked on decompilation because that's fun, and you wanted to solve some challenges, and you love this game and want to explore deeply about this game. It wasn't because of your job or manager that asked you to make this thing,
No.
but it's by somehow you worked on the compilation helped to your career path and found new opportunities?
um I would say, to be completely honest, no. I'm in a pretty good position in my career right now, and I've been the same job since I left college, actually. So I haven't been like looking for other jobs, and I don't intend to anytime soon. But knock on wood, hopefully. But I will say, like, I've definitely made many connections through this community, and I feel that if I did need to leverage them, I probably have some opportunities just from the social connections. Um, and that being said, I've also learned a lot of new skills that I could apply later in my career if need be. But the job I work on right now is not reverse engineering, so I don't use as much of that. Um, but yeah, I have learned so much, and
Mhm.
it's been like a really rewarding experience, even if it doesn't help me in my career.
No, no, that's great because it's like to open new opportunities. So if you need it in the future and it may necessary because the computer hours change, it can be useful to have like say this path available.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Okay, so wrap up. And
Okay.
so we had before I record this, before I start this podcast, I asked on Discord, the comp.me, a couple of questions the community may want to ask you. And so Grana asked on Discord if you think it will be ever possible to decompile a niche and specific game stuck with a console that nobody really care about. And that's the term that he asked. And if so, what would be required to get there? Well, I mentioned it before about this Wonder Swarm console.
Yeah.
So would it be possible to decompile a Wonder Swarm game?
Okay. So here's the thing. Like for Mario 64, the most let's say that that's the most popular game. I mean, not necessarily, but let's just pretend it is the most popular game to decompile. That game, even though it's finished now, at one point was completely like impossible to decompile. And then tools got better, people got more knowledgeable, and then the bar lowered, and the ability the
Mhm.
ability bar surpassed the difficulty bar of Mario 64. Then
Yes.
the idea of decompiling like a GameCube game or a PS2 game was obviously off the table. But then tools got better, people learned more. Now, when it comes to consoles that nobody cares about, obviously, like someone has to care to click a button to decompile. Like, let's pretend you could press a button to decompile a game. Someone has to care enough to press that button. So it's just a question of how good the tools get versus how much people care, I think, and how much time they're willing to spend. But like if you care a lot and you have passion and you have time and energy and you don't give up, I think you can, as a solo person, accomplish this. Like these are long projects and they take a lot of time and often take, you need help from people. You have to learn a lot. But I do think single people can do things that they didn't think they could do. Myself included, like I said, I never thought I could work on these kinds of projects, but I was able to get into it. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I think it will be possible. I think a lot of people have decompiled niche games, not on consoles no one cares about, but still, people have worked on niche projects and been successful. So it's just a matter of time, I think.
Yes, yes, yes. That would be nice to have more platform, more games that was decompiled to because not only because of the game itself, but because if you decompile this game, it will expand the horizons. It expands
Yeah,
possibilities.
yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
okay, and the other question, Sina Megapolis asked on Discord a nice question that opens up a range of other discussions that you can have, and he asked the following: uh, have there been any larger scale efforts towards researching compiler behaviors and coding to help speed up the comp projects? If so, do they get documented anywhere or are they passed through a word of mouth?
That's a good
They
question.
mentioned about documentation, and that's a harder thing.
Yeah. Documentation is one of the places that we lack a lot in the decomp community, both for like general knowledge about how games work, how compilers work, how tools work. It's something we need to do better at. Um, to answer the question literally, I don't think there have been any large scale efforts, but I do think that there are many people who have individually tried to research compiler. I know there are people who have researched GCC, who have researched IDO, CodeGen. Um, Sinray, one of the community members, has like a very sophisticated tool for viewing IDO code gen process, which is I think only he understands, but is still amazing to see. Um, and yeah, GCC, you can have it emit all of its different compilation passes, and there have been people who have tried to analyze that, and people who there's someone who wants to apply machine learning to that as well, which I think is promising. Um, but none of these efforts have been like large scale, several people working on the same thing. That would be really cool. But yeah, it's mostly been like independent projects, and sadly, I don't think the results of them are documented very well. No, but like I said, I really hope we can get better at doing that
Mhm.
as a community. We do
Mhm.
have like a wiki. I'll point out decomp.wiki, and we really encourage people to contribute there as well.
Yes, yes. I will put the link below as well. And tell about the Wix. I mentioned that about the Wix, about the cut room floor that I will love this week. But a time ago, I was checking a documentary about the No A Press challenge on Super Mario 64.
Yeah.
And from this documentary that is 6 hours, I found the week about Super Mario 64. They have one very detailed week with many glitches and bugs on this game that oh my god they document very well.
Yes, yeah, those yeah, I think Wikipedia maybe.
Yes,
But
yeah,
yeah,
this one.
yeah, they're crazy in a good way about that game. They know everything and they
Yes.
very good at cataloging it. So, yeah.
And finally, do you have any closing thoughts?
um I guess well, first of all, I'm on Discord. I'm ethtech, ETHTECK. That's also my handle on a lot of other platforms like GitHub. Please reach out to me if you're interested in getting involved in this community and you have any questions. I'm happy to at least point people in the right direction, if not help if I have the time. And yeah, and I appreciate your time and giving me this platform to share my passion. And yeah,
Okay, yes.
thank you.
Okay, yes, yes. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm glad that you gave your opportunity to make this interview and this podcast. And I really wanted to share this subject because on GambiConf, that's a kind of content that I want to spread the word because they compile on retro games. It's a subject that matches very well the goal for the conference. That's about the the joy about open the black box to explore new things on the computer, and just because that's fun, not because of the work or because your boss asked you, but because you loved and you enjoy to make it.
Yeah,
So that's the spirit that I want to share, the hacker spirit.
cool. Yeah.
So in the description I will include the links for reference that we mentioned in this program, and the decomp.me Discord if you want to join. And that's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.